Welcome back, Odooers. My name is Jose Ignacio. Now, today we're going to learn how to create, configure, and publish an event with Odoo Events. And trust me, it's a lot easier than you might think. But we do have a lot to cover, so let's jump right into the database. So here we are on the main Odoo Events dashboard. Now, to create a new event, we're actually just going to click on the new button over here to the left of the word events. And this reveals a blank event form that we can configure and customize in a number of different ways. Now, up here at the very top, you'll see a handful of metric-related smart buttons for this particular event. We have stuff like registration and attendees and a few others right there. Now, these will auto-populate with data as the event gets created and published. It should also be noted that if some of these smart buttons or fields don't appear on your event form, you likely haven't yet enabled the features that are supposed to be behind that. But a quick trip over to the settings underneath configuration over here should take you there to fix that. All right. Now, below that, we have the general information portion of our event form. So let's start by giving this event a name. Let's type, I don't know, wood furniture con. It's a convention. Great. So after that, we need to designate a date or range of dates on which the event is going to take place, followed by the appropriate time zone. Now, underneath that, we have our language. Now, this field represents the language that all the communications to attendees will be translated into. But if you don't need any translations, you can actually just leave it blank. If we open the template dropdown over here, you'll see a selection of pre-configured event templates that can save us time during the actual creation process. Like if we select exhibition over here, you'll notice that the booth smart button auto-populates up here at the very top. Because this template is already configured to provide 4 kinds of booths, which saves us a bunch of time. We can also add tags in our case. We can even do stuff like designate an organizer, in case you're in a multi-company environment. And another cool option here is we can add a specific employee as responsible and choose which website even that this event should be applied on if there are multiple websites in the database. If the website field is left blank right here, it will apply to all websites in the database. Then we can actually do very cool things like add a specific venue address, upload a map over here, and we can even limit registrations. That's right. If we tick that checkbox, you'll notice we're then going to be prompted over here to enter a specific number, which would be the limiting factor on the registration. So, in our case, my big old stadium can only fit 5,000, so that is our limit as an example. Then we can also designate things such as badge dimensions for our attendees. And we can even upload our own custom badge background. And that's all very in-depth. Now below that, we have a couple of tabs. And here we have 4 tabs, which are called tickets, communication, questions, and notes. I'm going to be going through these. So starting with the first one, inside of the tickets tab, we can actually create different ticket tiers for our events. So to do that, I'm going to click on add a line down here in the bottom left. And we're going to immediately change the default name with something custom like basic ticket right there. Now, going forward with this, we actually want to click over here inside of the product dropdown just to take a look at those options. But let's actually already select the default one that's already there, which happens to just be event registration product. And if you ever wanted to modify any event registration product, we'd actually just have to click on this little internal link arrow right there. Give that a second to load up for us, and boom, it takes us to the product page for that specific event registration product. Here we can customize it in a number of different ways. You can also create event registration products like this from scratch by going to the products page in the sales app, clicking new, and going from there. Just remember to make sure the product type is set to event ticket or else it won't work. Anyways, let's jump back to our event form via the breadcrumbs, which today is wood bread. It's a real thing. All right, now let's change the ticket price. I'm feeling savvy for my customers, so we're going to change it to $20. And I think at this point, I need to put a sales start date. We're going to pick the 1st of April, and we're going to pick today as the end date and just apply that right there. Great. And if you notice, we can even add a maximum number of these tickets that can be sold, just if needed, but we're going to leave that alone for now. I don't want to mess that up. We also have the option to designate this ticket tier with this specific color if we want to. And you can also see that on the very far right. Then once these tickets start to be sold, those figures will appear inside of the taken column that we have, which happens to be right there. Now you can create as many ticket tiers as you'd like for any event using that same process, and it's pretty straightforward, right? Now, jumping on to the communications tab over here, you're going to notice that Odoo already presents us with some pre-configured mailings that will be sent to all the participants leading up to the big day, which we can also customize or even add to. To edit any of these, we'd simply have to click it. And then once that we're inside of there, we can modify it however we like. But let's say that we want to create a text message that'll be sent out a day before the event to remind participants about it. It's not a problem. For that, we're going to choose add a line, and we're going to be down here at the very bottom. And I just said that it's going to be a SMS because I told you we're going to be sending this type of communication. Now, next, we can either select a pre-made template, modify it, or create a brand new one just by typing in the name inside of here and then clicking either create or doing something else from that drop-down menu. In my case, we're going to actually just stick with event reminder right there. That's just to save time. But if we wanted to, we could also just once again click on that little internal link arrow and Odoo takes us over there, just like we did on the tickets tab. However, I'm not going to change this one. So up next, we need an interval. And this happens to be something that can change in a certain type of unit. We want one every single hour? No, we're going to do days. It's great. And we're going to set the trigger to, in this case, you have different options. It could be after each registration, after the event, but ours, as I said, is before the event. Now, hopping into the questions tab over here, you're going to see that Odoo has set us for success already yet again. And now we have some pre-configured questions for our attendees to answer when they register for the event. As you can see, these can be pretty generic bits of information, like in our case, name and an email. But we can make these questions anything we want and customize them in a number of different ways too. Let's check that out. Now, for the most part, these questions are posed to registrants so that we can gather more useful insights about them. And then we can actually analyze that stuff even further. So let's create a question that asks them, how they learned about us. That way our marketing team can see which of their strategies was the most successful in getting that word out. So for that, we're going to select add a line right there. And what do we want to ask? How did you hear about this event? We're going to be pretty generic with that. And then we're going to make this mandatory. We need to know. And we're going to ask it once per order because we don't want to bother them. As you can see, there are many different question types, but since I want to present them with some answer options to select from, we're going to keep it locked on a default selection option. And then that means inside of the answers tab, we got to add those in. So now we're going to type in online, hit return. And you'll notice this makes it a little bit faster as a small little Jose Ignacio tip. Social media. We're going to assume radio. Where else do people hear about things? TV. And now we're done. Great. Now, if we wanted to save this question and quickly jump into creating a new one, we'd click on Save and New. But for this example, I think we're good with this one question, so we're going to hit Save and Close. Boom. We're all done. Doing so returns us to the event form where we'll find the newly added question right there, along with our answers and a few other options that we had created for it. And once all of these responses start flowing in, we can also check on these analytics surrounding those responses by checking on the stats button that we have right there. Now, if we jump into the final one, notes, you'll notice something pretty interesting. You'll see that we can do a couple different things here, both of which are completely optional. Odoo provides this option to add any internal notes for colleagues working on the event, like to-do lists, reminders, or important contact info. Or we can leave notes for attendees who may need to be aware of specific ticket instructions, like how to get to the event, when do the doors open, where are the bathrooms. Do a map for that. All right, so all of those are the essential elements of a typical event form inside of Odoo Events. And once you've got your event all customized, configured, ready to go, everything, you'll want to make sure your event is published online. At this point, it's not published. That way, potential attendees can learn about it and start to purchase tickets. So to do that, we're going to select, in our case first, manual save just in case, go to website button up here. This is very important. And then once that you do that, Odoo takes you to the event page on your website, which can be fully customized in any way, by the way. And you just do that by selecting the edit button here. And if you do that, I'm just going to show you this because it's kind of really cool. You got all of these options on the sidebar with useful building blocks and design elements. Once you're done customizing, you click on save. Let it wait right there while Odoo magically does all of this. And then for visitors to be able to see this event and hopefully purchase tickets for it from your website, You're going to want to select this toggle right here up at the top to make it published. And there you go. Now you can just sit back, wait for those ticket sales to start rolling in. And there you have it, Odooers. That's how you create, configure, and publish an event using the Odoo Events application.